we're just gonna have to do it. I don't give a toss, right? I'm not here for fucking views. I'm not here for views. The deeper I allow you to see, the deeper that you can perceive yourself, and the gravity that culminates off of that, I wouldn't be surprised if I get more shadow banned until a certain time. Until a certain time, and I emphasize that. So we're just gonna have to do this. Two people, okay. So I tried to record this like 5 minutes ago, and I was talking for about 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and basically it just stayed on one view account, and I was thinking, fuck, am I shadow banned? Like, why the fuck's it doing this? Usually it, puts it up to 4 or 5 and not too long at all. Either way, I don't give a shit, right? This just has to get done. This has to get done. This isn't about views. This isn't about, oh, I'm entertaining. Even though I am entertaining, I'm fucking entertaining. You guys know that, right? I show you the realest fucking shit, and then I'm also entertaining inside of that as well. And in terms of, when I say the realest shit, you know that if you're taking this stuff serious, as in you care about this stuff, you don't just look at me because you think I'm skits or whatever the fuck. You understand the perpetual motion, the perpetual evolution, that it's only increasing. It's only going forward, and essentially the mirages, the illusions that will be able to be taken away, especially if you are somebody who, like, you care about this stuff, but you don't know where to look, yet you have a good ability, I'm not saying perfect, to be able to hear one person say one thing, hear another person say another thing, put them together and discern what is valuable to which side, what is compatible, what mutually destructs, what proves itself to be a fallacy. If you have discernment, you will understand that as I continue doing this, for example, some of the things I showed on the last live, right, compared to the last video I did, which was 2 hours long, which was a great video, but with that video, there's so much more to that video. The amount I withdrew, the amount that could not be put in that work. I mean, yeah, like, here we are. It's a slow process, but here the fuck we are. I appreciate all you guys, all 3 of you watching right now. And I don't care if it stays at 3. We're just gonna do this because fuck these people. In fact, listen. There's only so much mercy, and that's gonna make a lot more sense down the line when I say certain things. And down the line, I can't give you a time estimate for that, truly. But there's only so much mercy, and there's a lot of it. But there's no mercy for these people. The way that they think that there's no mercy for them. There's not. The things that they do, it's a different dimension. And I'm speaking very, very, very parabolically right now. The things I'm saying, even though it just sounds very base and simple, oh, there's no mercy for these people who sacrifice kids. The depth of what is contained inside of that, it's just too much to even remotely get into right now. But we're about to get into some good stuff. So we're going to go to the first chapter, the first section of the Zohar. And I will let you guys know that I am actually butt naked right now. Right, that's how much I don't give a shit about the views. I really don't. And we're going to read this profound, definitely wouldn't call it an introduction, but yeah, the first introductory chapter to the Zohar. And if we can find the page, then we can begin. It's because, there we go, prologue's finished. Here. Okay. Here we are. Chapter 1, the lily. Okay. So, we don't particularly need to read this little introduction by the actual translator. If you have the Zohar, if you have an edition of the Zohar, whenever you read the lowercase letters, and also, I don't care about my fingernails as well, guys. Like, growing your fingernails, which is clip off, Very powerful stuff if you can handle it. If you can handle it. Don't just think no, this is intentional, guys. Like, I don't grow my hair because it looks nice, even though it does. Anyway, when you see the lowercase, it's the Aramaic, and when you see this uppercase, it's a filling by the translator, basically. So the rabbi opened the discussion with the verse, "As the lily among the thorns." He asked, "What is the lily?" And he replies, "It is the congregation of Israel, which is Malkut." And obviously it doesn't say which is Malkut. That's my point, is it doesn't say which is Malkut here. But so these types of things, sometimes they say some very profound things. Sometimes they say some things where it's like, take it with a pinch of salt. Like, it's just, you have to be an initiate to read the Zohar, read the Albert Pike quote. Because there is a lily, and there is a lily, just as the lily among the thorns is tinged with red and white. Now, we're not going to get too deep into this now, but if you understand what is being said, just as the lily among the thorns is tinged with red and white, so is the congregation of Israel affected by the qualities of judgment and mercy. If you understand what it means when it says affected by red and white, that Israel is affected by the red and the white, this is insane. And of course, with every mystery, it's multifaceted. There are multiple dimensions, multiple layers of initiation into it, right? But yeah, this is just the red and the white column really goes in with don't cook a calf in its own milk. Like, you have to separate, you have to eat kosher. That's at the base level. But what this red and white is talking about on such a, I can't explain it for you guys yet. The requisites that would need to be in place in your psyche, you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't understand how profound it is. It's a process. These are my videos. This is my channel. Because it's a process inside of me. I'm not saying I have all the answers. I can't read Hebrew yet. As much as I can see some certain things that are so profound, because I'm increasing to actually explain to you guys what the red and the white means and the level that you would need to comprehend it. I'll give you the simple answer. I'd like to explain it, but I'll give you a definitive. I'll give you essentially what this is talking about in reference to what I'm about to show you. Just as the lily among the thorns is tinged with red and white, is essentially talking about what's known as the Erev Rav in Judah or Israel. Now, Israel and Judah are not really synonymous terms. That's complicated. That's a very complicated statement to make. But what is known, and I mean really known, especially in the context of the composition of the Zohar, the original time. What is known by any intellectually honest Kabbalist is the sheer level of extent of how much Erev Rav is in Judah. Now, what is Erev Rav? What does that mean? Again, some of you are going to be at that place, you don't even know what Erev Rav means. That's fine. That's fine. As long as you're here to learn, that's totally fine. Pardon me. So, Erev Rav means mixed multitude. It basically means non-Israelites becoming Israelites, coming into them and mixing with them. And if you actually read the Bible and then also understand some requisites, the idea of the Erev Rav isn't just, it's Ashkenazi Jews, right? Even though, we could talk about that for bloody ages, right? The Erev Rav goes back all the way to Moses, and there are multiple. Again, it goes in with the statement I just made, the sheer magnitude of Erev Rav. That at the time of Moses, during the Exodus, Egyptians were becoming, quote unquote, Israelites. Already the Israelites were becoming a people that if we just want to, be very base and default in terms of genetics, are not Israelites, right? Now, there's many lofty concepts around this idea. I actually spoke about this in that 2-hour video. Talk about some of the ideas around the soul, and there's just so much that goes into that. I don't want to divert, I don't want to tangent too much. But again, it's like this it goes to show you, like, just how much, trying to read the Zohar, It's okay, buy the Zohar, read it, initiate yourself if this is your path. But so much is going to go over your head, and it's a process, it's a refinement, it's always a continual refinement, and that is especially emphasized if you're not Jewish, if you can't speak Hebrew. And of course, the Zohar is a Aramaic Hebrew kind of merging. It's really profound in that sense. When you really understand some of again, I'm just going to tangent if I go into these matters, but we'll continue with this. So just to go back over this, he's talking about what is this lily. He's already, again, you read the Talmud, certain things in the Talmud, they're discussing certain verses, like similar concept with much of the Zohar. They're really discussing and diving deep into the matters of what are these tiny little segments, for example, talking about. What does as the lily among the thorns mean? And yeah, he's basically said it's talking about, again, well, he gives an answer that gives you multiple dimensions to perceive, and it's down to your own perception to see what is there. And it's talking about Erev Rav. Just as the lily has 13 petals, so the congregation of Israel is surrounded by 13 attributes of mercy. Thus, between the first mention of the name Elohim, which appears in the passage, "In the beginning Elohim created," Bereshit bara Elohim, to the second mention of Elohim, so the first 3 words of Genesis is Bereshit bara Elohim, and then is saying that between that first mention of the name Elohim, there are then 13 words after that until Elohim is mentioned again. And he's saying, and of course this is all filling, saying that these 13 words are 13 attributes of mercy that guard and protect essentially the soul of Israel. Now, the soul of Israel and the soul of Judah, again, it just very complicated stuff, and it's just stuff to come, right? But he then obviously puts the 13 words, and it's all caps here. So turn the page. After this, the name Elohim is mentioned another time in the passage. Elohim moved over. And why is it mentioned again? In order to bring out the 5 rigid leaves that surround the lily. And these 5 leaves represent the 5 gates of salvation. And this secret is written about in the verse, "I will raise the cup of salvation." Psalm 116:13. To be fair, I don't need to quote the actual verse. This is the cup of benediction that is raised after the meal. The cup of benediction must rest on 5 fingers and no more, just as the lily rests on 5 rigid leaves that represent the 5 fingers. And this lily is the cup of benediction. From the second to the third mention of the name Elohim, there are 5 words which translate as "moved over the surface of the waters and said." These words parallel to the 5 leaves. From this point, the verse continues, "Elohim said, let there be light. And after this light was created, it was concealed and enclosed within the covenant that entered the lily and fructified it. This is referred to as a fruit tree yielding fruit whose seed is in itself. And this seed is the Brit, meaning the covenant." Now, this last part here is so profound, and it's actually beyond what we're going to be talking about. It goes in with Sandalphon and Metatron, the angels. But I'll just comment for now that these 5 rigid leaves, this is in the mystery of Sandalphon, the angel, and this here is in the essence of both Sandalphon but Metatron. It's alluding to Metatron, but there's also, yeah, if you see, you see. But these 5 rigid leaves, the reason why that is an explicit reference to the angel Sandalphon is because the 5 final form letters, which are, there's 22 Hebrew letters, and 5 of them can be written in another form, meaning they look different, right? So like, I'll show you a little example here. If you can see, this is the letter Mem, and then that is the final form Mem. And the final forms, they only appear, like here, that's final form Mem. They only appear at the end of words. And there's a lot I could go in. In fact, I have a video coming up on that. Very, very deep and profound stuff. Again, it's something that if you can't sit there and listen for like an hour, 2 hours, even 3 hours, like the sheer magnitude, the way that I can tangent, the way that I can flow, the concepts, the layers, it's just, I don't want to overwhelm you guys. But what it's referring to here is the 5 rigid leaves is explicitly talking about these 5 final form letters. And basically the final form letters, there's a lot to it, but it is in a sense the secret of Sandalphon. And there's such a gravity behind that statement, but the way to know that gravity is definitive, is real, without me again having to explain too much and just tangent, is that if you take all of the 5 final forms, which are Kaf, Mem, Nun, Pe, and Tazadi, the values of which are 20, 40, 50, 80, and 90, if you add those values together, you get the value of 280. And the value 280 is the exact gematria of Sandalphon. So the 5 final form letters combine to give Sandalphon's name gematria. So that really is the mystery of what's being said here. But yeah, we really just wanted to focus not even on the 13 letters. Again, there's a whole other video that I basically have prepared, as well as the final form video on these 13 words. Like this matter is very deep. In fact, I'm not even finished. I've just done a huge chunk of it that it's like, yeah, this is, I mean, a lot of Jews won't be happy. Let's put it that way. Long story short, I said we're not focusing on the 13, but we are. Because if we're dealing with Genesis 1:1, which, not even Genesis 1:1 is in the like, I'm not even trying to make a point about it being the first verse, because the versing and the numbering of things came later. More so that it's just the introduction. If we understand that the 13 words after the introductory 3 words, which are Bereshit bara Elohim, those 13 words, if we understand that just the base level, the Zohar is saying that there's a lot of mystery behind these next following 13 words. Well, what's the first of those words? What's the first of those words? And there's a very interesting reason why I highlight that. Or more so why I ask, what is the first of those 13 words? And that comes because if you paid attention or tuned in to the mysteries of cosmology, Kabbalistic mysteries of cosmology, where I'm discussing the nature of Zeir Anpin, which is also called the small face of God, also known as the world of Yetzirah. There are 6 spheres of Zeir Anpin. And essentially in that video, I reveal that Zeir Anpin is basically a Klipothic domain. Again, if you don't understand like the gravity of what I've just said of it being a Klipothic domain, either just like watch my stuff, just be in a place to get it, you know. Holy shit. That's how you fucking know these fuckers are. See that? That's mad. That's mad. Look at the red. Look at the fucking red, bro. See, my nose has just started bleeding. See, my nose has just started bleeding, the red and the white. It's okay though, right? So these 6 spheres of Zeir Anpin, they are not totally Klipothic. I'm not saying that it just equates to being hell, because that is of course what Klipoth pretty much could be understood as, right? Even though again it's enigmatic. Is well, I mean, really, it's the mystery of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Let me just put it that way. Let me just get straight to the cut. In that you have a good side and you have an evil side. That's the most easy base way to explain it. So if we have 6 spheres of Zeir Anpin, and they're quite dual-natured, flip-sided. Well, what's 6 plus 6? Or 6 times 2 is 12. but it's saying that there's 13 attributes of mercy. And then it's talking about how, oh wait, the red and the white corresponds with mercy and judgment, which is why I'm bleeding out my fucking nose right now. Because what I'm about to say is extreme in terms of its judgment on as they call themselves, Beni Yehuda. Beni Yehuda. Now they are Beit Yehuda. They are Beit Yehuda, and that I want to emphasize. I really want to emphasize that. But inside of Beit Yehuda, not everyone is Beni Yehuda. That is just fact. And that is extremely painful. The pain, like guys, if you knew how hard the name Havaya, if you knew what really going against the Jews does. Now, like I just said, here I am giving judgment. But I'm just stating these requisites so you have so you don't misinterpret. So you can't fuck up these very, very, again, I hate to use this word that I basically made up, which is enigmanimous, which means unanimously enigmatic, means no one can fucking understand it. It can be the truth, but no one can understand it. If you understood how hard the name Havaya goes for these Jews, like if you fucking actually knew how many, like if you were there, if you've had family that have fought in World War I, World War II, and you've seen it's not even funny. It's not even funny because it's a huge part of how we're in this predicament. And I'm speaking very, very loftily right now. If you understand that Western Europeans are the 10 tribes, we are, and that they are barely even one in terms of actual, I don't want to say just DNA, because that's such a disgusting simplification, and someone can easily take that, obviously not at all trying to understand what I'm saying when I say DNA, right? Which is really in the mystery of the donkey. The ox and the donkey, but two flip sides. Why? Because one of the spellings of donkey, chamor, is very similar to the word matter. And if you let's just talk about quickly Erev Rav mixing. People call the Jews fake, right? People call them a mixed people, whatever you want to say. You have two ways it can happen. You have, let's take your people, right? Your men can either go out and make mums of children, basically, or the women can get conquered, and now they have new Y lines with the Y chromosome. So a great mystery of the ox and the donkey, and it's not as simple as one is one, the other is the other. It's more so the spiritual archetype of what's being unlocked. For example, Ishmael is described as a wild donkey, yet he carries Abraham's line. Yet Hamor, the word, well, he's not called a Hamor anyway. He's called a wild donkey, different spelling. But that word donkey is tying to the idea of matter, which is the other side of the Y chromosome for a man. He has his X chromosome. He has his mitochondrial DNA, his mitochondria. And that really goes in with how, when I say that the Jews are Erev Rav, or many of them are, that essentially it's a lot more complicated than just saying their DNA doesn't match. Because then when I make the statement that Western Europeans are the lost 10 tribes, it invites an argument to be made from, you could say, the intentional not understanding, or again, just the the ambiguous nature of the statement in the first hand that the Jews genetically are not the Israelites. Well, who the fuck are then? And someone's going to say the Palestinians. It's very, very, very complicated matters here, guys. And I've gone on a mighty, mighty tangent. Mighty tangent. And that's okay. But to home back in of where we were going. Western Europeans being the lost Israelites. You have to understand that in a way, we're fucking hated. And some of these nationalists, like, they will not like to hear that. And when I say hated, like, I'm not even talking about, like, if I'm saying, if basically what I'm insinuating is that Western Europeans are actually the Y-line bastard children of Israelites, and that Beit Yehuda is essentially a shit show where you've got all these different men at different times, Erev Rav, coming in. Well, that would mean in a way that we are more pure Israelites because we actually carry Jacob's line, or the lines of the tribes on the father's side. And that's not actually how things fucking work in terms of us being more pure, even though we are. Because the Jew who understands Yeshua, like actually understands Yeshua Kabbalistically, he's more pure of an Israelite, regardless of his fucking Y-line, than your average, R1B, DF27, Western Europe. Like, what I'm saying is, there's so much gravity behind what I'm saying, and the mystery of what I've just said is the Shekinah. For me to say we're hated by who? Hated by our God. Actually hated by our God. And there is a great, I mean, yeah, like, what is our God, right? What is our God? When the first three letters of Genesis, bara, repeat themselves, like here. Here's me tangenting, but bara repeats itself, bara. If you swap the Reish and the Aleph to have Beit Aleph Reish, that actually means well, like a well of water, like digging something and then going down and descending with an ultimately holy outcome. To be continued, to then, you know what I mean? It's not an immediate, like, the fact that this basically, it means he created, in the beginning, created God. This means created, but it can swap this letter and this letter, and it means a well. So, now, I don't blame people for especially the stupid Christians. Like, I do not blame the stupid Christians for being so skeptical of Gnosticism. Because as you go on YouTube and type in Gnosticism, you get fucking bullshit. You get fucking bullshit to some of the highest fucking degrees. So that term Gnostic is such a chucked around, like, just spat on term. But when I say we're hated by our God, like, God is very, very angry at. Like I said, I'm making such a claim that we are the more pure genetically, yet we're the ones that are hated. The only way to understand this is if you can read the Bible. And then you understand what the Bible's saying. And then you understand that Gnosticism is not an opinion. Gnosticism is not an opinion. Gnosticism is a requisite of any of this being put into English. None of this could ever be put into English without Gnosticism. Let me put it that way. Now, if you define Gnosticism again as this bullshit you see on YouTube, this isn't. But yeah. The first letter that starts these 13 attributes. And these 13 attributes, I mean, really we're dealing with the mystery of the Vav, of the name Yod He Vav He. But the name Yod He Vav He is really just the name Havaya, right? Which is a great mystery inside itself. Again, exceedingly Gnostic. But the fact that, you have that dickhead Jesuit priest talking about, calling it the Antichrist when really it's just called the beast. He's never called the Antichrist. You guys know that, right? You guys know scripture never calls that person the Antichrist. The Antichrist only gets mentioned once in terms of a word, and it's not referring to any specific individual. It's talking about people who deny Yeshua. He's called the beast. So when you have that Jesuit priest talking about the beast, and he's saying that, they lost basically the second temple. Now, oh my gosh, the amount of things I'd have to go into to adequately explain this. I'm sorry to have to again. Just some of you guys will not be able to comprehend these matters. I'm just kind of glazing over. Right? But the reason why being an Israelite can still mean something, let's just put it that way, from the most dogmatic Christian perspective, the reason why being an Israelite is important, the reason why Romans 11 opens with I'm a Benjaminite from Paul, is because of that Vav in that name Havaya, or Yod He Vav He. Yod He Vav He is the Vav. The Vav of Yod He Vav He is essentially what again, you won't be able to understand what I'm saying, but it's a great mystery. So these 13 attributes of mercy are in the secret of Zerain Pin, but we understand that those 13 attributes really were, I don't want to say originally rooted, but it's inseparable from this idea of 6 of them being mercy, 6 of them being judgment. And well, where's that 13th one? What's that other one? So that's why we start here. That's why we took those first 3 words, Bereshit bara Elohim, and then those 13 between Elohim to Elohim, and we take that first word, which is At. In the beginning, created God, in the most basic English, this just means the. Bereshit bara Elohim At. And then what comes after the At? Hashemayim, the heavens. But we're going to start with this At. Why are we going to start with this At? Why have I taken, if you want to be a dumb, retarded Christian, even worse, be a retarded Muslim. Like, no, you're not. You guys aren't here for that, are you? You know that you're not. So this silly mind is not ever going to think that this could ever be more important than just being the. But this is the secret of Yeshua's own words. I am the Alpha and the Omega. Why does he say I am the Alpha and the Omega? Because when we understand John 1:1, in the beginning God created. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is the mystery of the Hebrew teaching that the universe was totally created out of letters. Again, if you take that at face value, you'll never get it. Every single letter is a spiritual archetype. It has its qualities, and those qualities are innate, and they can reflect. It goes in with this idea of our consciousness itself. Can you find the exact pinpoint of your consciousness, where it's actually rooted? Of course not. So can you go and find me where the pinpointed root of the archetype of anger is, or sadness? That's all the Hebrew language is. That's all the alphabet is. These symbols to convey these principalities that are innate and that correspond from from layer to layer. And it is. There's no denying of it. It is. So when Yeshua says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, this is because, of course, Greek was originally 27 letters, but around the time of Yeshua, they had dropped 3 of the letters, and there's essentially 24 letters, Omega being the last letter. So when he says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, he's saying in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. which is the mystery of At. Why? Because when it says Bereshit bara Elohim At is 2 letters. Aleph is the first letter and Tav is the last letter. So it's the exact same correspondence as Alpha and Omega. Now let's go back to the Zohar of these 13, which again we kind of have showed a 6 and 6, which is 12. So where's this 13th? Now the base layer of the mystery of the answer is that 13th basically represents the Shekinah of Malkuth, which is a fine answer. It's not a wrong answer. But it's actually a lot deeper. And essentially, the reason why it's a lot deeper of an answer and you can't just stop at, okay, it's the Shekinah of Malkuth. That's more so the end product. It's the Shekinah of Malkuth. It's the divine feminine manifest on the earth, which, by the way, is if I'm talking about how Yehudah is a very mixed people, how their Y lines are all messed up, which ones are the sons of Jacob. If I'm making such a thing and then I'm talking about the divine feminine on earth, again, you'll realize how can we be Y-line sons of Jacob, yet God fucking hates us? God is so angry at us. Again, it goes in with this idea of the divine feminine. Go read the book of Hosea. Go read the punishment. You commit harlotry, Ephraim. So the reason why we can't stop at the Shekinah Malkuth and how that basically is the kind of product of it's the protection it's assuming the 13 forces having done and allowed what's needed to happen in a sense, right? It's a very base way to put it, but the secret of that is because the 14th letter is here, is that final. Now I know I'm talking about those 13 words which start after Elohim, but the 14th letter is the first final form letter of the whole Bible. And the 13th letter is this Yod. And the mystery, many of you will see the profundity of that. But that basically means that, okay, if we're going to take that 13th to be the Shekinah of Malkuth, but now we understand that that's more so the final product, what is the catalyst? What is the catalyst for those 6 forces of judgment and those 6 forces of mercy to turn into 13 attributes of mercy? And the answer is a very complicated discussion. It deserves a whole discussion in itself. But the answer is Da'at, the sphere known as Da'at, which essentially is what can exalt good and evil, right? That is essentially what can exalt good and evil. Now, that 4th word, At, the Aleph and Tav, the Alpha and the Omega, is what represents that Da'at. Is what represents the 12 following letters. The 12 following words. 6 and 6. But all working for the Shekinah of Malkuth. It's very profound what I've said, but when we take the gematria of this, right, we get the value 1603, which is the same value as Proverbs 30 verse 3. Now I encourage you after this to go look at the next verse of Proverbs 30. Go look at Proverbs 34. Go look at the following verse after this. Take into consideration some things that I've said in Kabbalistic Mysteries of Cosmology in that video, and you'll be shocked. It can be paradigm altering if you're ready to see it. But the same exact gematria of 1603, and not have learned wisdom. He's saying, I have not learned wisdom. I do not have wisdom. But knowledge of the holy ones I will have, or I will attain, I will get. Wow. Remember, Da'at, what I've just said about Da'at, but knowledge. Da'at, that is da'at. Remove the vav, which is the but or and. And yeah, that is the sphere of da'at. The gematria of da'at is 474. Now, go back to the red and the white of the lily, which is, I haven't given you the secret of that, which some of you initiates will be able to some of you will already know, but like some of you will be able to decipher that. Da'at is the same gematria as Erev Rav. Erev Rav, the mixed multitude. The whole notion of the fake Jews is the same gematria. Erev Rav is the same gematria as having knowledge, da'at. And how I've just said about how this da'at is exalting these 6 and these 6. I mean, this really, guys, just put the pieces together. These mysteries here are sublime. It's sublime. Now, but knowledge, you want to know how deep this is. Remember, this is da'at. You remove the vav, which again means and or but or to connect a sentence. Add the 6 to 474, and you of course get the gematria of 480, which is the exact same gematria as Lilith. Lilith. Yeah, you know that demon you've heard about? Like, again, the mystery of Lilith. Oh my God, I cannot be talking here. But I'll tell you one thing that Lilith is of course tied to, and many of you will notice. Female infidelity. Now, that is very, very rampant today, right? But let's talk more contextual. If a people is conquered, men have been slaughtered, and now, in a way, a people have been hijacked, you could even call it. Yeah, it's not, fucking running around this culture, Western, whatever. That's still Lilith, mate. So, that's one verse that corresponds with the exact gematria, right? Now, Jeremiah chapter 31. This chapter here, Jeremiah 31, verse 9, is one of the verses that openly talks about Britain. You heard that right. Jeremiah 31 talks about Britain. Verse 9, this same segment of the verse, this same, like the rest of this verse talks about Britain. He who scattered Israel shall gather him and keep him. Same value, same exact value. And what have I just... some powerful stuff here, guys. And I'm not saying that this verse is talking about Britain in a illusory, eluding sense. No. It's very explicit. It says to proclaim, it says to the nations, it says to the Goyim, proclaim this word on the isles, on the far isle. Like, there's only, again, I could show you a couple more verses, and it becomes undeniable that it's Britain. It becomes undeniable. Pair that with some history and some authentic understanding. Tyre, Sidon, Phoenicia. My gosh, guys, Micah chapter 5. Vengeance on the nations which not have heard. Vengeance on the nations that will not listen. Now, this is talking about Ishmael. This is talking about Muslims. You really want to know? Guys, some of these things that I'm going to be saying about Islam, the mysticism of Islam, oh my gosh. Oh my God. I cannot comment. I can't comment. Let's just, good and bad, right? 13 attributes of mercy unto Israel is what I will talk about Ishmael. And we'll see who has those attributes of mercy working for them. The reason that this is talking about Ishmael is because Ishmael, the progenitor of the Muslims, son of Abraham, brother to Isaac, half-brother, of course, have heard. This is basically the root of Ishmael's name.
Ishmael's name means God listened or God heard. And it goes in with Hagar's cries, and we're not even going into this right now. But Shmayu, this is saying, Ishmael, you do not understand the fucking scripture. Vengeance on the nations which have not heard. They don't understand the fucking scripture, do they? Go on and tell me about the lost 10 tribes, Ishmael. Go on, let's do it. Now, really, the mystery here. Let's just get to it. Let's get to it. Because there's a great mystery in Ishmael in these 13 words, right? And it's just going way beyond what even I wanted this to be. But really, like I said, this Aleph and Tav represents the art that allows for the 13 attributes of mercy. So what is it? The Messiah. That's the answer. That's the most simple way to understand it. The Messiah, the Moshiach. It is he without the Aleph and Tav. Then there is 6 and 6, and 6 are mercy and 6 are judgment. But it is the Mashiach. It is the Mashiach that can exalt it and does exalt it. And how do we know that? Well, when we value the final form letters in chronology, right? Because final forms can just be their standard value. Like, that's the way you should do it. But you have the option to, you have 5 final forms. So because Tav is valued 400, then you go 500, 600, 700, 800, 900. So because Tazadi is the 5th and final form, it can have a value of 900 when regular Tazadi is valued 90. But you don't have to do the 900. It just becomes optional because you get these mysteries. So these first 4 words of Genesis, guys, if you want to understand how deep the Zohar is, these conclusions that have been arrived at are not just discussions as much as they are. There's so much backbone behind what's being said in the Zohar. When you value these final forms and allow them to express, is probably the best way to put it. Eitz Chaim, meaning the tree of life. The first 4 words of Genesis equal the tree of life. And what this is basically, again, if we understand, again, you have to have learned a bit about Kabbalistic ideas to even understand this, to even come close to understanding this. But again, if the art is essentially what is exalting these forces of judgment to total mercy of the Shekinah of Makuf, well, let me put it this way. The Mashiach is essentially the tree of life. Let me put it that way. He can exist at any point around these things. These are very, very, very deep mysteries going into the nature of Yeshua. And, I'll have some things to say about Christianity particularly that may upset certain Christians, which is fine. All I'm doing is forcing you into an understanding of Yeshua, which you will not be able to deny, and it will not be things that are incomprehensible, as much as there will be multiple avenues of that for many of you. What I'm saying is that there will be the plain and simple undeniable. That is the plain and simple undeniable. As much as there's going to be the lofty for the initiates that, oh yeah, this is great proof. This is great proof of this. This is great proof of that. The only way that we're going to annihilate and destroy this klippah, these ugly exteriors of these Abrahamics, is by feeding and accommodating to, in a way, the Aleph and the Tav. That those who understand the highest see the evidence of all evidence. And that those who only see and can only comprehend the definitives, well, we'll make sure that it's fucking definitive enough. Do you get what I mean? But that really is a great mystery here, guys. And we take the Greek of Galatians chapter 6 of 1 to 900 value. God of Israel. Wow. 1603. Just like all these other values. Now, again, there's a great, very complicated to explain this, and it goes in with the Mashiach. It goes in with the nature of, well, let me put it this way. Reshit, right? Forget about this first letter. Reshit basically means the beginning. And Beit can mean in, because it means house. So if I have, let's take the word Zerapath. Zerapath means France. If I put the letter Beit before Zerapath in Hebrew, it means in Zerapath. So that's why this is translated as in the beginning. But this Beit, again, if we understand that, the first three letters of Genesis are then repeated in the second word, Barashit, and then Bara again, it's already just an invitation for interpretation. And I don't want to just say interpretation, I mean deep, profound insight. Not just interpretation, deep, profound insight. So because Beit can mean in, Beit literally means two. It just, before it even means in, before it means house, Beit represents the number two. So if Reshit, again, we're going in with these Gnostic ideas. Again, this bullshit Gnosticism. I'm not talking about this bullshit Gnosticism. Why do the highest Gnostics talk about these mysteries of Genesis, that creation is not what these heretical, you're Muslim, you're Christian, again, the Jew gets the closest, because this means two beginnings. Two beginnings. So in these ideas that, okay, if we're talking about art and essentially this is the Mashiach, but then it's coming, what is the fourth after Elohim? And then it's like, what am I trying to... Very, very lofty ideas around this, guys. Things that, well, this video was not meant to be the be-all, end-all explanation. None of the content I've done is meant to be. I guess we'll leave this on... I just need to make some comments. I need to say some things that are unrelated to this video. If you go on my tweets right now, you will see that I made very, very explicit, don't want to say accusations, because it's truth, against some of these people who... Candace Owens, we can see the influence that someone like John Mappin has over Candace Owens. And 10 seconds, not 10 seconds, but very, 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 very not long ago, prior to starting this, well, as with other things or other incidents which we won't get into, we got John Mappin's attention. So John Mappin, oh, you're muted. Someone messaged me saying I'm muted. Again, that's very strange. But the fact that my nose is bleeding right now, oh, it's beautiful. Guys, the retribution. John Mappin is a baby. He's a baby. In terms of these people, he's a baby. Who are these people? Oh, I think some of you know who they are. Maybe not a lot of you, but some of you know who they are. We'll see who makes it to the other side, right? We'll see what happens when Yosef is done cleaning up Egypt.